You know,
What's up? This is 9/11, and we are tuned in to AVG Podcast. And today I have a return guest who I went through her illustrious career doing politics and author and just so many hats last time. If you hadn't caught that last episode, I would advise you to go check that out. It was very insightful, very informational. So we're bringing back Dr. Faye Williams Esquire to the show. How you doing today?
well, I'm doing just fine. I've earned a few more titles since I talked with you last, in addition to being an ambassador. In just a few weeks, I'm going to be crowned an African Queen Mother, and I'm really excited about that. The ceremony is going to be
Okay.
it's going to be in where? Atlanta, Georgia, right? So I'm
Uh-huh.
really looking forward to it. I was nominated by someone in Ghana. Okay.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I'm just a country girl though from Louisiana, and I'm still trying to do the best that I can do. I've gotten a few awards since we talked last. I
Okay.
yeah, I'm really excited about that. The other week, I got one called Women of Power. I said, well, I'm not feeling so powerful, but I'm glad,
Yeah.
to get the award. And
Hmm.
I've been a foot soldier. I've had just a lot of achievements, and I'm blessed for all of those. I look back on my upbringing in Louisiana, especially in Alexandria. That's where my mom reared her 9 children, and we had many of the same kinds of challenges that others had. But
Hmm.
most of us grew up to be able to go out into the world and represent our state and our city well. Now, let's talk about politics. They're very important now. Just a few weeks ago, many of us sat around our televisions really looking forward to a great debate, knowing that still President Biden,
Hmm.
be able to handle anything that's thrown at him. Unfortunately, he was ill. He'd been traveling all over the world. He was hoarse. He had a cold. He had just several things. Tired. He'd been back and forth. His son had just gone through that trial, so I can understand that he
Hmm.
was really worn down. So I wasn't angry with him, but I was just disappointed that he didn't do better in that debate. Now we know the person he was debating just told a whole bunch of things that were not true, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, he couldn't. He didn't have the strength, the energy to debate all of that. So I was disappointed, but at the same time, I was still supporting him. But then many people began to urge him to step down, and he did. He thought more of his country than he did of himself, and so he stayed there for a while. And ultimately, when he was ready, and I was not one of those who was pushing him to be out, because I know that his 50 some years had done a lot of good in this country. I was very pleased the fact that he worked with President Barack Obama, and that he was working on his own, and that he had chosen a black woman to be his running mate, that he had chosen a black woman to be a United States judge. So, and there were just a lot of positives that his administration has brought on. So I was very pleased with all of that. But at the same time, when people began talking about his age, I thought, well, I'm older than he is. Are they going to start telling me that? Because I'm not anyways tired. I ain't no ways tired, and I'm not about to give up. But when he did give up, he did a wonderful thing. We might never have even had a woman who would be able to run on a record as great as the one that he and Kamala Harris, the vice president, now a soon to be nominee for president, had. They had a great record. She has a great record to run on. And in these few days that she has been the nominee, I know some people don't like to call her that until they go to the convention or what have you, but I'm calling her. In fact, some of us have started calling her president,
Yeah. Okay.
because we're so excited. Last Sunday night, as soon as the announcement was made, Black women had a telephone call. I was one of those almost 45,000 Black women on the call last
Wow.
Sunday night. And
Hmm.
I was so excited about it on Monday when the Black men had their big call with Roland Martin. I went on the
Powerful.
Black men's call and listened to it too. And then I
Yeah.
had the nerve last night to go on the white women's call because I wanted to know what they were saying. Everybody is
Everybody.
so excited
Yeah.
about the possibility, the real possibility of our having Vice President now, but President Kamala Harris. And I've been going around teaching the other side how to pronounce her name. They call her Camilla. They call her
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of names. But her name is Kamala. And I
Yeah.
love the way she started out as telling us about who she is. She said, you know, her mom always taught her, you don't have to tell people, you know, let people tell you who they are or who you are. You tell them yourself. And let me tell you, this sister has been telling us who she is, and we know that she was a great prosecutor before she was vice president. And I love that line when she said, and Donald Trump, I know who you are. I
I
know
know, I know, I
right.
seen.
Actually, she's having fun doing
Yeah.
it. And you know, we hadn't had any fun for quite a little while. Everything was kind of down and sad in our country when some people were beating up on President Biden as well as he has done. But she has brought some joy back to people like me, people like you, and all of us who have just been waiting for us to have someone who to you know to be able to bring joy
To
to us.
get by. Exactly.
She's that
Let me
person.
ask you this. Let me ask you this because I see and I feel the energy around the country, surrounding
Hmm.
the VP Kamala Harris, and I see how energized you are. I want to ask you a two-part question. Do you
Hmm.
think ultimately it was the right decision for President Biden to pass the torch at this time with some of the cries coming? And just for full disclosure, I want to let people know that you served in the Obama administration. So you kind of had behind the scenes working. You've seen the progress of him and his growth, and not just necessarily growth, but his progress as far as being a leader in the White House as well. But do you think it was fair? And also, when you initially heard that the VP was stepping in, did you think that was the right time? And did you think that changed the direction? Because to be honest, America was kind of, after the debate, it was kind of like a what the hell moment. It was kind
Hmm.
of like people had trepidations because they saw President Biden, like as you say, he was going through a lot at the time, traveling, going through court. But then they saw, on the other hand, what we were dealing with. So it was kind of like everybody walked away from that debate kind of in shambles that night. But it seems like everything, the Democrats have rallied back together. They got a game plan. They look more organized. And so now with the revitalized energy, do you think it was the right choice? And do you think
Yes.
now's the time that we can finally get our first woman and woman of color at that in the president as the president?
You know, I'm grateful that the president did it now.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he has a great record, and his record is her record, basically, in terms of her helping him as his vice president. So I'm glad he did it now to give her a chance to be introduced to people who will pretend they didn't know her. I can't imagine anyone not knowing her because she's been the vice president for what, three and a half
Yeah,
years.
3.5 years.
Before that, she was a
Mm-hmm.
prosecutor, you know, the top lawyer in California,
Mm-hmm.
and she did have a great reputation there. So I'm glad he did because we might never have had an opportunity to have a black woman nominated to become president. Because if he had chosen to run again, whether
Mm-hmm.
he won or lost, that would have been 4 more years before we could have looked at the possibility of having a black woman for either vice president if he had kept her on or for president, you know, because he would have served his 4 years. So I think he did the country a great favor. He did black people in general a great favor. He did women, period, you know, and a great favor. And I hope that men of all races and whatever, you know, whatever they call themselves, will see that she is going to be a blessed and wonderful, fair person as president of the United States. I think those who don't know her now, maybe don't like her now, during the next few months, they're going to learn who she really is because she is telling the story, and we know that her story is true. Her mother taught her well, and I love that laugh is contagious. People are
It
laughing
is.
again. We
Yeah.
were so down before he did that because we were afraid he might not make it. People were making the case that, you know, while he might live, he might not be able to continue
To
running
continue.
and being president for us. Right now, he has the opportunity to sort of allow her to go out there, and he has already said he will campaign for her, but he's going to finish his term as
That's it.
president of the United States. And I don't care what the other side says. They can't say that the President Biden has not been the most successful president in the last 8 years. We certainly know the Orange Man was not a great president for America. He wants even now to destroy our democracy. So
Yeah.
I believe that President Biden deserves our thanks for allowing us to early have someone who can become our president. We just got to work for it. We can't take it for granted now. We're real happy and excited and everything now, but I think that excitement is going to take us into November and make sure that we get everybody out. I'm told thousands of people have signed up to work for our new nominee. And that people, I know I gave up my money Sunday night as soon as it happened, just like so many other people have been doing. She's raised a
Yeah.
record amount of money. She's got almost all of the unions supporting her. We got those church people got to come along now. They're a little slow, but
They're a little slow to the party.
that's right. Souls to the polls. They're going to have to get that program in operation. But before that, no matter who we talk with, we've got to make sure they're registered because they can't help if they're not registered. And then once we get them registered, that's when the preachers and others in the community got to take over and make sure they go to the polls. And don't let your relatives tell you all those stories, like playing around. This is not a time to play. This is a time to be serious. This is the best opportunity we're going to have a black woman as our president. Now, there may be some other woman who will come along 100 years from now, but right now, Mr. Biden, President Biden, has given us a great opportunity. We better take advantage of it.
And I want to say another thing that you touched on right then that was so important, because already, since she's become more to the forefront, a lot of the mistruths that was spoken about her have already been debunked. Oh, she locked thousands of black men up. She did X, Y, and Z. And when it came down to it and they broke down the numbers, it came down to 45. So how does it go from a thought? That's why they say everybody's the hero when they're writing their own story. So you got to be careful where you get your information from and how much you latch on to it and really believe it. But I want to touch on this now, because at the same time we were getting rejuvenated and revitalized and had her come in and give us that boost of energy, something very strange happened. An attempt on the ex-president's life. And you can say the same thing, basically revitalized and rejuvenated their party. When I looked at the rally the other night, it was like a concert. So looking at that event, knowing what you know, what do you feel about that whole ordeal there with the attempted assassination on the ex-president's life?
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry about the person who died and those who were injured. I don't
Definitely prayers for the family.
I don't believe until they show me a picture where the so-called bullet came from. I don't believe that was a bullet that hit his ear when he ducked down. And if it had been, I think he would have been more careful when the Secret Service fell on him and were trying to get him to safety. You know how he kept jumping up, pumping his fist like black people do when we say now, he tried to be one of us that day. If he thought that a bullet had hit that ear, he would not have been jumping like a jack in the box up out of that. A woman had to come and drag him off that stage. You remember she came up and because the men were just kind of putting their hand up over him, but this woman came and basically, I don't know what she told him, but she probably told him something or hit him someplace where he decided to stay down there and go down those stairs. And even when he got to the limousine, he's still trying to jump up and down. Those three women are the one who saved his life if he thought that he was about to lose his life, where he's jumping up on the car. Those women shoved him in that limousine, closed that door, and stood by and said, "You're not coming out of here. Now, you're not a martyr today. You might want to be, but you will not be a martyr today. We getting you out of here." No, and that little thing that was on his ear, it may be a piece of shrapnel or something like that, but that little thing, he could have put a Band-Aid on that. He didn't even need to go to the hospital.
I was wondering about that.
We didn't see no big, ear torn off or anything like that. I think all that was staged just to get our sympathy. And then he had the nerve to go and select J.D. Vance. Now, everybody knows that J.D. was a country boy, and I got nothing against him because I'm a country girl. But it's a different kind of one. And he decided, if you heard him the other day talking about women, talking about if we don't have children, we shouldn't have a lot to say about our democracy in this country. Can you imagine a 39-year-old white man, even a white man, having the nerve to say something like that? I wonder if he's saying the same thing about men. If they don't have children, are they not supposed to have, much to say about the democracy? Well, I tell you what, on November 5th, women of all stripes, all kind, including a lot of men, are going to be there at those polls, and they're going to show him who has a right to help to save our democracy while they are trying to tear it down.
Now, like I said, you served in the Obama administration, but you are very well respected and have a long-term resume in the political arena yourself. Like, you know what you know, being on a campaign trail, Like, how is that smart to alienate a whole segment of voters? Because when you make a statement like that, that crosses color barriers. And most of the time, when you're running for things or you got a certain ideology, you stay with at least in a color group. When you say
Mhm.
something like that, you alienate a whole section of the population.
Mhm.
How, as a politician, do you come to up to those type of statements? Is it arrogance, or what do you feel like is going on
Mhm.
with him to even say that?
I tell you what you do. The best thing to do is be registering some more voters and making sure they go out there and that you explain the issues. See, a lot of people don't know the issues in this country. A lot of people don't watch television, and particularly a lot of people in the South. I know they watch Fox News, which gives out a lot of misinformation. You need to watch some other stations. You need to look at NBC. You need to look at CNN sometimes, but you need to look at the people who are giving you the facts. There is something out there called what 2025 Project 2025. You need to know what's in Project 2025 because that is what JD Vance and Donald Trump are offering to us. And what it's doing, it's impacting negatively things like Social Security, about children and what we have for children, like kindergarten. And they want to cut out the education department. Can you imagine that? With all the
That's
education
crazy.
need, they want to totally cut out the department. They want to cut Social Security for elderly people who have only Social Security to support them at this time in their lives. They would not be the ones giving all these millions of dollars to historically Black colleges and universities. Oh no, they definitely would not. They would not be the ones who are helping students who've been paying on those student loans for years and years and years. And President Biden and Kamala Harris have cut some of it off. They've done the best they could, but the other team, the team that's Vance and Trump, I call him the Orange Man. I don't usually call him Trump, but anyway, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, like the Biden team and Sister Harris, who is going to be our president. They believe in helping people. And we know that their competition is not one that helps poor people or even average people. They want to cut out every advantage that we have. And while we're asking for more, even of President Biden and of soon to be President Harris, we're asking for more things for our students, for our children. Our country needs education. There are those who kind of call the soon to be president Kamala Harris a DEI. Like she didn't have a good education, and she shouldn't be in this. She's got more education than all those people who are complaining about that. They want to cut out our history. That's dumb. I mean, they should want everybody in this country to know from whence we have come and where we're going. And that's one of the things about the soon to be president Kamala Harris. She is looking forward. She's not looking back, trying to just complain about what went on during slavery or whatever. No, she has programs in mind that will move us forward and make us a better nation. And whether they call her DEI, diversity, equality, and whatever person, she's a very well educated woman. And not just educated. I don't mean it takes an educated person to do everything, but you have to have some kind of knowledge in order to run this country. And she wraps around both the Orange Man and JD Vance in that respect. So what they are doing is just making up some stuff, trying to get other people who are not listening carefully to the issues what they really stand for. If they stood for anything that was positive for this country, they would be talking about that, not about Kamala and trying to make her have shortcomings.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up the DEI hiring us. And I
Mm-hmm.
want people to understand when something like that, a rule like that is brought up or is brought out,
Mm-hmm.
it's not because as a charity case, because maybe we should give somebody a chance. Stuff like that comes about and put into place because people that are qualified weren't getting the chances. We were left out of so many rooms, and we were left out of so many chances to lead, to be leaders and stuff like that. So people always try to look at it as like it was as a charity case. No, it was because we
Mm-hmm.
actually had qualified people that were being overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to say, did you see what the Fox reporter said about her and tried to call her like the DEI and compared her to a social media girl? I'm like, this woman is very accomplished and established. You do not need to do that.
Right. She's got education and experiences that wrap around all of them. and still have some space left over. So let's not
Exactly.
listen to that. But when you listen to Fox News, you're going to hear a lot of that kind of unsubstantiated, crazy stuff. And who could be, even if she were a diversity, equality, and inclusion person, what would be wrong with that when you think about all the things that have been taken away from us, all the opportunities that were denied us? Why shouldn't she have been able to receive some kind of help? But the point is, she's smart. And that's what
Mm.
a
It's
smart
intimidating.
a smart black woman. I tell you, she can do things that everybody else said, well, you can't do that. All she has to do, and all she usually will do, is say, okay, step aside and watch me do it. And that's what she's doing.
I look, and I know this warms your heart coming from a woman that is, like I say, people that don't know getting caught up, like you've beat that campaign trail, you know the ins and outs of politics, you served at the highest levels, and you continue to do great work. So when you talk, that's why I always bring an aficionado on when I talk about a subject. And to me, you're my politics aficionado. And
Yeah.
speaking of how smart she is, what do you
Hmm.
see, or do you foresee the ex-president taking on a debate with her? Because it seems like now they kind of ducking it. Everybody was willing to debate Joe Biden, but I see everybody now kind of falling back in the weeds.
Uh-huh. Well, he's being reluctant right now, and there's reason why he's reluctant, because he knows that DEI will beat him any
That's a
day.
shredder coming.
I remember one of his professors at the university where he supposedly attended school. They said he was one of the dumbest SOBs they ever had in the class. I mean, that has not changed. It has not changed.
Bro.
So I don't mind. I mean, I used to not talk about him. I would give him a chance. But now that he is saying some of the craziest things, like he did to President Obama in that debate when he
Oh,
that was just awful. We know
terrible.
that President want to see Obama. Well, he did endorse him today. He and Michelle endorsed our future president today. And many people are getting so concerned about that. I don't know why they were concerned. They knew that he was going to be there. He was just waiting for other people to have their news, their little break, and
Yeah.
their little cheers and what have you. So he did it in perfect timing. And I'm very excited about it. Just like I worked for President Obama, I'm going to work for our future president, Kamala Harris. She is absolutely the smartest. I don't care who they put there. I don't care who they can put JD and the Orange Man on the stage at the same time to debate her, and she will win hands.
Well, my,
She will win hands down. There, I have no doubt about that. And some people say, well, she's an AK. I don't care. I'm a Delta, but she's a black woman, and that's going to come first. And I hope that all men will take the responsibility to say that you don't have the right to be below black women in terms of voting. You're good, but you're not quite there. You got to put your heart and soul in this one, particularly if you have daughters and someday you want things to be better for her. We have something called the Divine Nine, and all of us are supporting Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter. In fact, it was the Delta who called that first meeting Sunday night put together. It had deltas from all over there on the where we had the 40, almost 45,000 on, like, just the drop of a hat. That meeting was put together, and everybody couldn't get on. And the same
mhm.
thing happened. I must give the white women credit. Last night they had supposedly over 100,000 people on theirs, because women know who is for them. There's some things in this election that they want, and so this is the time for them to rise to the occasion. I don't care where they're from. I don't care what their education level is or where they live or what have you. I believe we're going to have the greatest turnout, but we have to make sure. And I want all of the brothers to have a little talk with those few rappers who, only because Trump has promised to pardon them from,
Mm.
get them out of prison. That is no excuse. I hope mamas will take care of them and, sit them down and teach them a lesson about why this is their time to make themselves worth something and mean something by going out, not just voting for a Kamala Harris, but also working for Kamala Harris. That's a favor they'll be doing to their own daughters and their own sons, for that matter.
Like I said earlier, I think the women more so than any other time in history is going to be so important in this particular election because for one, you have the and I don't know if we brought this up yet though, but we have the other side stance on the abortion and what they've said that with the zero tolerance, not even if you're raped, and then with the recent comments of JD Vance, I just think that the women right now, and I know they like to talk about the battleground states and all that stuff like that, but I really think the women right now hold the key to this election is because that the two issues, the issue at hand that's at the forefront is primarily regarding women. That's why it's so odd to me when I see some people just got their flag planted and can't see the trees for the forest when
Mhm,
somebody's told you their ideology and told you what they plan to
mhm.
do with your body, but you
Right.
still choose to fight. It's like a cult like mentality. I don't understand.
Yeah, and of course the issue is a woman having the choice. She may choose not to have an abortion. But I
Exactly.
know the other day when I think it was, I don't remember who it was that was asked about, well, what do you think about let's see, what was it? What do you think about? Is there any issue about a man's body that the government tells them what to do? And the answer, he couldn't think of it, or he didn't
Couldn't
want to
think
say
of
it.
it.
He didn't want to
Exactly.
see it. He didn't want to admit it. And this was a member of the United States Supreme Court that she had asked him the question about whether the government tries to control a man's body. So, brothers, I'm telling you, this is your time if you're ever going to rise. And I don't believe when people say, oh, he has a great percentage of black people who are voting for him this time. That's to fool you. Don't
Mm,
worry. But those few who haven't decided to vote for him, those are the ones we got to take care of, and we know who
yeah.
they are. We may not be able to get those brothers who are now already on the side of Donald Trump, and they're getting paid, and they have a little campaign money taken care of, and get a little money on the side. No, we're not going to change their mind. We're talking about young people. In just a few days, I'm going to have Gen Z on my radio program because the young people are flocking to Kamala Harris right now because they believe their lives ahead will have a better chance with a President Kamala Harris than with the Orange Man and JD. JD, that sounds like a country name.
Like you about to drop a
Not,
country album.
he's called JD. And the brother has so much out there that's negative that he has said about women and about all of us. And
Crazy.
it's on film, it's in books. He wrote it himself, you know. What's that book he called? Whatever. But he has put it out there. And we know that that Project 25, we got to teach people what's in there because they just say, oh, he's for Project 2025. But do you know what's
Do
in
you
there?
know it?
That's
Yeah.
what hurt you. We got to study, and those of us who read it and know it, we've got to sit down with our people, and we don't have to argue with them. Let's just say, did you know? This is
Mm-hmm.
what's there. Did you know? And don't get mad at people if they don't want to hear the truth. There are a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who don't want to know the truth. So we have to take that responsibility to teach our people. And there are many people who would do the right thing if they knew the right thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's our responsibility to do that.
Now I want to get your opinion on this because I was interested in because I hadn't really heard anybody else talk about it, so I was just interested being that I know you know behind the scenes, just within the party. Is it any worry that because one of the most recognizable names in politics is stepping in on as like an independent runner, the
Mhm.
Kennedy? Is it anywhere within the party that anything the votes could get misconstrued or get kind of you know split between the Kennedy coming in the race, or is that not even an issue? Because I seen the night of the debate, he also did held an independent debate and stuff itself. But I
Mhm.
seen some people talking, and he has a little momentum. Is the party worried about splitting votes or anything like that?
Well, I mean, we've got to be concerned about all of it now that the future president Kamala Harris is in the race. I believe many of the people who were going to go independent will be coming back home. His family is a Democratic family. His entire family is against him running. So if your family is not voting for you, not supporting you, who's going to be supporting you? I think he'll come to his senses and he'll back off because he knows now that we know that he was not acting like a Democrat. He was acting like the people who were financing his campaign. And we know who that was. So it's not fooling us. Now, we have a brother in the race. I think before the election, that brother's going to come to his senses too. And they weren't going to get a whole lot of votes, but we need every vote we can get.
Just me,
We don't want to
right?
depend upon that. So we have to be kind to them. We have to let them know that they are being traitors if they decide not to vote in this election when they've got the most qualified woman in this race, the most qualified person in this race.
And that's very well said. Before I let you go, I wanted to get your opinion on this too. I'd rather tell you to give a little slight lecture to everybody, because right now we're talking about the Super Bowl of politics. I always call the presidential election the Super Bowl. That's the big one. That's the one everybody go to. But I just want you, if you could, just drop a few gems on the listeners about how important it is to going into the presidential election and stuff that directly
Mhm.
affects you in your community, with your
Mhm.
city councilman and all the stuff inside your cities before you even get to this. Can you just drop a little knowledge on that?
Absolutely. Many people don't understand how important even the dog catcher in your town is. So you need to know who you're electing for that. You know, like people don't like dogs running all across their lawn sometime. If that's the case, then we need to know who it is so that we can at least talk to the person about what the problem is. But let me just tell you, the people who are running for city council, who are running for county commission, who are running for governor, for Congress, all of those are important things. And when we talk, we need to not put all of our attention on who is going to be our president, because the people, the governors and all, unfortunately, Louisiana made a mistake this time.
Judges.
Yes, judges are important. And one of the first things that President Biden said before he goes out of office, he's going to deal with judges, and particularly that Supreme Court, who has become a court that is not fair to many of us. So hopefully he'll be able to deal with that as he said he would. But if not, I know that Sister Kamala's going to be on it when she gets to be president. But every level, you must remember, they have some impact on your life. Sometimes the federal government gives money out to the states, and those governors and others decide not to put it where we are. They put it where they want to put it. So we're left out again. So we need to know who's there representing us at every single level. As far as the money in the city, you pay taxes. You've got to remember, you should have something to say about how your money is spent. But if you don't have someone down in that city hall meeting, you know what's going to happen. It's
Mm.
not coming into our community. We're not going to have the roads fixed in our community. They're going to be fixed in other communities. It's not going to be cleaned up in our community. It's going to go to other communities because we don't have anybody there representing us. If we don't remember that all of those things are important for us to think about and to vote. I know that Alexandria has had some challenges with not voting lately. And what has happened? You had someone who was representing you, as far as I know, and then maybe the person there now is representing you some. I don't know. I won't say he's not. But the point is, ain't nobody gonna care more for us than we care for ourselves.
Then you care for yourself. You hit it on the head with that. And last point, because we spoke
You know how
about
many times
judges.
you said last point?
Look,
I
because
know.
I keep thinking, while I got this wealth of knowledge, I want to tap into it. Before we get off, the point that you made about, like we touched on judges, now that you see the other side trying to grant immunity to the president
Mm-hmm.
from any and all crimes, how dangerous is that?
Oh, extremely dangerous. We didn't see them pass that when Barack was president, and they're not going to keep it when Kamala becomes president. Oh, well, they'll easily change that. I mean, how can you say that a person can have immunity? Because we know the Orange Man said it before he came in. He just said he could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot
Mm.
somebody and kill them, and nobody's going to do anything to him. And it looks like that Supreme Court heard him. And that's
Yep.
unfortunate because we have the opportunity to decide on judges. Even now, the Orange Man is trying to get out of what he's already been convicted of in New York. And that is going to be decided. That's been put off till September 8th to make that decision. But we know guilt when we see it, right? And we know how
Mm-hmm.
to keep our children out of things that they should not be doing because that immunity is not gonna be for them. They need to remember.
Exactly.
That's right. We know that because we know how many of them go to prison. We know how many of them have lose their opportunity to get a good education. They might get a GED if they go in prison. That's all right. If that's all they can have, then get that GED while you're in there and then come out and use the information you learn there. But don't ever forget your people. You got to remember Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Dr. Just all kinds of people. There's so many people who have given their lives so that we could have the little rights we have. And we can't afford to let anybody take us back to those days when we had no rights at all.
Exactly. And he was trying to extend the immunity all the way down to police, and we know how that goes. So we
Absolutely.
definitely don't want that to go into play. But
Right.
anything else you
And
want to plug? Or
I'm working with a young woman here in the Baltimore area by the name of Marilyn Mosby. Marilyn was a prosecutor at 34 years old, one of the youngest ones around the country, doing a great job. Now, the mistake, quote, that she made was also prosecuting police officers who were dropping drugs in our community, dropping guns on some of our people and getting them in trouble. And she had the nerve, the courage, I should say, to prosecute them. A young black man died in a police car on the way to the police station. It's never been explained why. She prosecuted those police officers who were responsible for him, but that's when her job was taken from her. They researched her life from beginning to end to try to find anything against her.
anything.
The brothers, and it's only been brothers who say, well, she should have known better. No, she was doing what her job called for her to do. There are black women around the country who are doing the same thing, and they're getting the same hell that she got from her job. Some of them have left the job, some of them have been fired, but you can look at St. Louis, you can look at Chicago, you can look at Atlanta and see what's happening to women prosecutors because they claim that black women are more sympathetic, more understanding of these things that happen, and they tend to work on ways to help young people when they get in trouble to so that they can become productive citizens rather than send them to prison for life. So I want everybody listening to your program to go to their computers, look at just, www.com. There is a petition there. It only asks, you won't get any trouble about this because we're sending it to President Biden. We got to get to 100,000. I've been able to get over 90,000 as of today, people to sign that petition. I'm trying to hurry and get to that 100,000 so that President Biden can get that off his plate for a pardon for her. She should not have been convicted, but they tried to put her in jail for 40 years.
What a year.
For something that thousands of people around the country did during COVID. 700 and some thousand people in Baltimore, where she lived and was the prosecutor, did the same thing. But she's the only one. There's never been a case where anybody was convicted for taking money out of their own accounts that the government was holding for them, like retirement accounts. And they did that to her. She's out of a job now. So she wasn't convicted and sentenced to getting the 40 years, but they have her confined to her home. How's she going to work? How's she going to make a living? So I want, please, before President Biden leaves, we need him to, to take care of her, give her a pardon. She deserves it. She has 2 young girls she's got to take care of, and she was a brilliant prosecutor. We want her to be able to go back to doing law, because they are also trying to take away her law license. So we don't know where she would live. All we're asking our people to do, and that's any people who believes in fairness, is to go to the www.justiceformarilynmosby.com. Marilyn is spelled Marilyn. Mosby is Mosby. Justiceformarilynmosby.com. You have to learn to do things, not just say, that's too bad. Okay.
Exactly.
So you can.
I'll be posting that in the description of the I'll be posting that in the body so people can have that information readily available. If they miss it, they can go back, link it. I'll put it in the video as well. So thank you for sharing that.
And if they give you a bad time, tell them to call me.
I got you.
All right.
I got you. Every time I have you on, that's why I can talk with my chest out. It's like I got royalty on here, so I feel good. I know I'm covered.
Anytime we got to talk again before Election Day, because we got a lot of lectures we got to do to our people. Okay.
Hey, I'm definitely gonna tap into my most valuable resource when it comes to politics.
Okay.
So y'all know how we are. Y'all know how we wrap it up. Always visualize your goals, and after that, accomplish those visualized goals. 9/11, Dr. E. Faye Williams, Esquire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.